drugs on top of that if needed. But I don't think we should be dismissing it. I think we should be studying that more. And if you look at these 20 drugs that people are on, there's no data that they're not interacting. There's no data about what doses. So, and I believe we can do the same thing with the herbs. We know the theoretical interaction.
So welcome to my channel, everyone. If you're watching here for the first time, you're welcome. We have today a very inspirational person who is a pharmacist, and she's redefining what it means to be a wellness leader. So welcome, Dr. Marina. Is it okay to call you that?
Yes, yeah, you can just call me Marina. That's fine. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I stumbled on your profile online and it was very inspiring. You are not just a pharmacist, but also a holistic health coach, a mental fitness coach, and herbalist. And you use this incredible knowledge to educate patients and empower other healthcare professionals to explore the world of natural and herbal medicine. And I'm very much excited to have you today because I know that my audience is full of pharmacists who are passionate about not just the field of pharmacy, but also other non-traditional parts, and maybe curious about exploring this niche, right? So I know that your story is exactly what we'd love to share here. Maybe there's something I'm missing out from this introduction. So I want you to also like to hear from you.
Yes, it's so good to have you as well. One thing I'll add is I also have a podcast. I host the Holistic Pharmacy podcast, and I also interview other inspiring pharmacists and other allopathic professionals who are transitioning more into the holistic realm and treating patients or creating unique opportunities and businesses to support their communities in more holistic ways. And I think it's a huge movement, and I'm so glad to be on this side of it, pushing it forward.
That's very interesting because the first time I actually listened to you, it was on LinkedIn. You had this interview with Dr. Freeman, and I was listening to that. And that was the first encounter with your page. Then I went to your website and I discovered that you had a website and you're a blogger as well. Like, how do you do these things? Like, I had these questions. I was blown away. I have so many questions to ask, but first of all, I'm going to ask, how did you even get into the world of pharmacy?
Yes. Thanks for asking. So I came to America when I was 9 years old, and I had my parents' background in the science field, chemists, biologists, and I pretty much, excelled, I would say, in a lot of subject areas, but I did like the sciences. So my dad dug up this career path, the pharmacy. So I ended up taking an internship here at a local pharmacy, and through there I started exploring, I started applying, I ended up going into pharmacy school, and it was a 6-year doctor of pharmacy program. So I decided, why not? I'll give it a shot. And, I never left. So I ended up graduating, and I have to say I'm blessed with the experiences that led me up to and in pharmacy school, because I was exposed to a more holistic and traditional meaning the way it was always done, medicine in my alternative medicine class at school, also at a club that we had with students leading this way of non-pharmacological approaches, and also in my own pharmacy journey where I was interning and working. I had pharmacists there that were studying naturopathic fields and working with functional medicine already with other doctors and providers, and traveling the world, and also, taking my own culture into account. I saw that pharmacy is not just a place where there's just drugs and there's just prescriptions. There's, in all these different cultures, herbs are part of it and other healing modalities, and pharmacists play different roles in different cultures. So that's what was really exciting to me.
All right, that's really impressive. Can you walk me through the first time you thought, okay, I think I need to go into naturopathic or herbalism? This is the niche I want to go into.
Well, I always had a love affair with tea, I will say, ever since I was a child. My parents tell me that I would not eat, I wouldn't have much of an appetite, but I would always want to drink tea. Or they asked me, what is it that you want to eat? I would always just say, let's drink some tea. And back then we didn't have much in my personal family as far as like herbalism, but just the regular black tea. But as I again looked at other cultures and was lucky enough to be in some pharmacies that actually specialize in medicine, and then I stumbled upon an herb shop that only specialized in herbal medicine, no prescription drugs, just herbs here in New York, where I am. That's when I was just super interested. And just like, we had to memorize all these drugs in pharmacy school, I was super interested to learn about all these different unique herbs and all their properties.
So would you say the transition was challenging?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know what? I think life is challenging. I think, no matter what we do, we'll find something good or something challenging. So I think it's up to us to just choose what kind of challenges we would like to overcome. And I will have to say that as I stepped onto this path, even through the challenges, I knew that I want to be overcoming those challenges, and I'm rising up to the challenge because I couldn't see myself turning back or taking any other path. So I knew that I would still come back to this path. It doesn't matter if it's sooner or later or, what I have to give up, but I knew that there has to be something along this path. And I'm going to keep choosing it over and over and over again because I had some personal health issues that also had me look into alternative, not interesting, but alternative methods, right? Things that allopathic medicine doesn't really recognize, but with the hope that I would find something for myself and also for future clients or just people in my community that would be seeking these answers, I knew that I wanted to go through the path and try all these things for myself, and then study them in depth as a professional as well to understand how they may be able to pair with the pharmacy approach, how it can be part of all medicine, and why we need to stop separating what's alternative and what's not alternative. And I also, use the word traditional differently. Traditional for me is not conventional. Traditional for me is traditional. So that is the herbal side, and that is all the foundational aspects of health.
Yes, that's really interesting. Speaking of, okay, the traditional side is actually the traditional, not what we already practice now. Because if you take pharmacy back to when it originally started, it was from the field. It was what you could get from the garden outside, the plants, before the conventional practice now. So, speaking of studying, how were you now able to combine both? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, so I would say back then when I was just starting to dabble in it, I did a lot of self-study and asking people that I know, just asking for guidance. So I asked my mentor from school who taught the alternative medicine class. And then I asked two other students who I knew were also into a more holistic approach that I met through school that were years ahead of me. So I tried to find a mentor that would lead me to the right way. And again, back then, I don't think it was that commonplace to take on a natural medicine approach as a pharmacist. So I just started with these little breadcrumbs, like I hear something from one person, then another person, and then I make a decision. And I think this is a big reason why I'm giving back to my community with my podcast and all the things and the blogs. Because I want there to be more than just one option. I want there to be, okay, what is right for you? Let's see what else is out there. Let's look at all of these other successful people and see what they did to get to where they are. So for me, that looked like getting a health coaching certificate. So I did a health coaching program right out of pharmacy school. And I was working pretty much almost a full-time job in a retail setting at the same time. So on the side of that, I was doing all of my studies. And, I think it was still very lucky that I ended up finding the position that I found because I was looking into residency and fellowship and all of these other things. But I realized I didn't want that degree. I just wanted it because it looked good. I didn't really want it in my heart. So I ended up just not pursuing it, you know? And so I just did things that I felt were the most aligned. And my biggest concern and purpose and mission was to do the things that felt right in the long term, not just what looked good to other people.
You're right about that. A lot of us go for things just because it looks good on paper, it looks good when you're talking to other people about it, but then is that what you really want for yourself? What are the challenges that people or you faced?
I think the biggest challenge is like this illusion of stability and this idea that if we have a formal degree and it grants us the right to do something or practice in a certain way. So I have my pharmacist license, and there's all of these rules and regulations and how I practice. And there's also a lot of career opportunities there, right? And there's job descriptions out on the market that you can go and get yourself a job with that license. However, if you're doing something like this that's not conventional, the biggest concern is, am I going to get a job? Is somebody going to actually pay me for my skills? So I think that's the biggest challenge that people will have to overcome whenever they're doing something new and innovative, is to figure out, is space for it? Is there a need for it? Is there a demand for it? And how can I create that niche and that demand and create opportunities for myself? Right. So there's nothing, that I knew of at the time that called for a pharmacist with a holistic skill set that I was, preparing myself for and getting ready to invest in my future because I knew there was something waiting for me. So it's almost like you're going in blind. And I think that's the thing that is very scary for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
it's scary because you don't know.
You don't know. You actually don't know what the future holds, and you're just going ahead. I'm sure you wonder, like, what about the bills? Bills have to be paid. You have things to do. So I am really like inspired by this. There's so many countries that I'm not sure like we have gotten to that space where non-conventional medicine is widely accepted. Although, like, if you go to for instance, in my own country, if you go to the most remote areas, you would find some people still into those non-conventional practices. Even a lot of people who come into the pharmacy, you would realize that some of them still use herbal drugs. And sometimes there's the issue of you can't combine both because of the side effects and all those. And another issue when it comes to herbal drugs that I find here, I don't know if it's the same where you are, is you don't really know the percentage of active ingredients in there. It makes it hard for people to
Yes.
I want you to talk to me more. I don't know how it is because I know like there are more advanced countries, and I would like to know more about what it looks like there.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up some very good precautions about what the biggest concerns are when it comes to herbal medicine or any alternative medicine, and combining that with conventional treatment, which is the gold star treatment because it's evidence-based medicine. So we have the trials, we have drugs that pass approvals, we have, 4 phases of testing, we have some data on interactions. But you know what? I think it's a disservice not to do traditional medicine. I'll use that word again in this context, not to use foundational health, not to maximize non-pharmacologic approaches, not to combine all the nutrition, lifestyle, stress reduction, and herbal approaches, and all the other things, chiropractor, acupuncture, manual therapy, physical therapy, all of these realms, yoga, mind-body medicine, all of these realms, I believe, should be used right in with the conventional medicine. I don't believe we should say, oh, if you're doing one, you shouldn't do the other. I believe we should be using everything we have, and we should be prioritizing and stacking them. So I think dismissing something as an interaction because we have no data is not a good answer, because you know what? The drugs are failing people. The drugs have side effects. The drugs interact with other drugs. And I see people on 10, 20, 30 different medications. I don't think that's sustainable. I really don't. I would like to see somebody taking the proper nutrients through their food and through their herbal teas or their tinctures, in addition to maybe stacking some drugs on top of that if needed. But I don't think we should be dismissing it. I think we should be studying that more. And if you look at these 20 drugs that people are on, there's no data that they're not interacting. There's no data about what doses. So we start low and go slow. And I believe we can do the same thing with the herbs. We know the theoretical interactions. We know which herbs to be careful about. We know which drugs to be careful about. And we also know that a lot of them are very nutrient dense and safe. So I'll give you an example with warfarin or Coumadin. It's a blood thinner, right, that interacts with vitamin K. And we have vitamin K rich foods like leafy greens. So just like we counsel people, it doesn't mean you have to stop eating all the things that contain vitamin K, but you have to be very consistent with the dosing and with what you're eating. So I think that's the same approach that we should have with all herbs. We should be just consistent and monitoring people whenever we are choosing to use these allies, use these plants that are here for us.
I love that approach. I do love that approach.
I think, there's this idea in the rational, logical, patriarchal society that we favor and we live in for so long. Just, trust. It's given us this sense that science is like the new God, like we're supposed to trust the science and believe in the science. I think that's the way that we're presented with all of these medications and innovative solutions. Now the new biologic drugs, right? Now the GLP-1, right? Agonists and analogs. There's like all of this innovation, and the data that's presented to us is actually very limited. We don't have hundreds of years. We don't even have 10 years, on some of these things. And to me, that's a sense of how we're qualifying what we call evidence, right? So are we going to trust, the years of oral and written and history that's passed down, that we know which plants are safe and what's the usual dosage and what are they used for? So we seem to just throw that out and say that this is not evidence, but then anything that's written in a paper, in a study that has a lot of flawed designs, as you know, and is limited by a lot of things and has inherent biases, and it doesn't have that long history. For some reason, we're convinced that that is a better way to assess the safety and efficacy, right, until further notice. So to me, it doesn't make sense at all, but it seems to be this concept that we're all bought into, that this is the proper way, this is the paper trail, this is how we analyze it in the lab. And unfortunately, to me, I don't think it's a sustainable model to actually live and treat people just using these drugs. I think we need to be starting to look at all the holistic picture, especially when we look at diseases are growing globally, how much chronic disease there is and how much obesity there is and how much, worldwide we're facing that is caused by some of the lifestyle and some of the things we do, including some of the medical waste and medical practices that are making us all sick. So I think we need to start looking at us as a global organism and actually look at what is causing these things versus what's the best, most innovative solution that just looks like a shiny object, in my opinion.
Can you see a future where herbalism and conventional medicine are more integrated within the healthcare system?
Yes, that's a great question. And I do believe that, I think this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I want other professionals to understand that there is value here, and seeing other professionals that are interested in both gives other people permission to also explore that. And like I said, I had certain role models that showed me that as well. So when we lead by example, when we share our stories and our experience, our personal hand experience, right? It's not just a study that you read. It's true for you and it's true for your patients. It's true what you're seeing, the impact of this. Then I don't think we should be ignoring it any longer. I think we should be trying and truly being innovative, which actually will help us conserve and make a more sustainable model from a resource standpoint, instead of relying on these crutches that have their own problems with adulteration as well, right? And with back orders or being out of stock or some kind of supply issues. So we need to have these other options in place. We can't just wait until the system collapses.
This makes me remember a time when after school, I did a short program because I studied in Ukraine and I returned back to Nigeria. We have to write this exam and also to write the license exam and all that. So there was this particular a professor who told us about how we can get a diploma in herbal medicine and become a herbalist in 10 or 12 months. I was so excited about it, but I was taken aback because I knew that how I was thinking, how feasible would this be in a country like this? People appreciate it. I had this many questions, right? 2 years after, I will still have thoughts about it. Like, why can't you just study? Because it's always interesting, especially like when I started taking courses in pharmacognosy back in school and everything, how that just the plants in your backyard can be a cure to this, a cure to that. And I was wondering, why can't we embrace these things, right? Can you share a specific case study of how you were able to help somebody through your herbalism expertise or coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I grew up in Ukraine, so that's so interesting that you studied there. Yeah, and that is part of what I'm carrying with me with the herbal culture and it being integrated in their pharmacy culture, which I love. And I actually just launched an herbal Slavic line of herbal formulations. So I'm happy to share that with the audience too. But regarding case study, I think herbalism is teaching me that it is a one step in your holistic journey. And there's beyond herbalism, what I'm doing through herbalism is having somebody really look deeper within themselves and choose that kind of lifestyle that works for them without giving up what's really important to them. Because I think, just like the science way and progress and pills and injections, like what are we giving up for the sake of this quote unquote progress? Like what are we losing in this transition? What quality of life are we missing out on if we're just focusing on fixing the symptoms? So I like to look at it as like a gateway and a portal to your own healing journey. And it really invites us to slow down. So for my clients, I meet them where they are. If they're smoking, I make an herbal blend they can smoke. Right. And that's help. And some of these herbs are digestive systems or hormones. We use these plants in the formulation that they're willing to do. So if they're willing to drink a tea or they're willing to take a tincture, we do that. And that looks like symptoms reducing. That looks like less painful periods. That looks like no more craving for things that they're not healthy for them in the first place. It looks like, less dryness on the skin or less itchiness or less arthritis or joint pain. So each step that we're taking with this herbal is inviting them to really prioritize what's important to them and really focus on that. And I think that's the biggest healing gift that I can offer. Yeah, I love this question, and I always ask the people I'm interviewing the same thing because let's face it, we only have 24 hours in a day, right? And we're all human beings. So how is it that some people are able to do all of these things and excel, and then other people just like don't have the technique? And I think it does come to technique, right? Because we're all the same. We all have the same more or less potential and capacity. We just have to know the right things to do. And again, I think it comes down to like mentorship and really following the footsteps of somebody who's done it and that you are inspired by and that values the same things that you do, to understand how to prioritize your time, because that's how I view things. It's really about what do you value? What do you prioritize? Because those are the things you need to make room in your busy schedule to do. And it also comes down to enjoyment, right? How much do you enjoy those things? If you're doing the things that you don't enjoy, that's the biggest recipe for burnout. And sometimes, even in my own business, I've felt times when I was burning out because I realized I was no longer enjoying some of those activities. So you need to figure out what phase of life or business you're in and what things are important, because they're going to be different for every phase. Right now, I have two little children, and it's important for me to be available for them. So
Wow.
when I was studying, I was building a family, there's different seasons, right? So that's why doing things one step at a time, I think, is really important to realize that you need to prioritize school, ideally when you don't have a family, so that way you can have more time to focus on school, and then when you're working and having a family, you need to understand, how much do you prioritize making money? How much do you prioritize doing what you're passionate? How much do you prioritize being with your community? Having faith, if you have a faith practice, all of those things are part of what make up our life and make up our health. So this is kind of the value-based system that can change too. So every season of life, you are going to prioritize different things. So it's okay to change those priorities, but I believe it's a good thing to focus on, one or two or maximum three of your top things and really put your energy and focus into those things. Because as a pharmacist, I know we are taught to be like jack of all trades and going to all these different directions and doing all the things. And I get it. And we're good at multitasking and being multi-passionate. But I think that just choosing which phase of life, which season you're in, and what's important to you now, and really going after those things is the best advice I can give you. And that's what I've been trying to do. And that means prioritizing, my sleep, for example, making sure I have enough sleep so that I can be there for my family and for my business. And that comes down to reflection, just reflecting every day and every week and every month and just seeing if you are where you want to be. Because if you're not, then you need to probably be prioritizing different things.
No, you telling me that you're a mom of two now makes me want to ask, can you walk me through what a day in your life is?
Yeah. So I wake up and my husband drives the eldest one to school. They wake up first. Then we get the little one ready, and she just started daycare. So he takes her to daycare. So daddy's doing his job. So mom is like prepping breakfast and kind of just setting up for the day. And then I go through my business meetings or my client calls. It looks kind of different each day, but normally I would work from home. So that's a blessing too. Sometimes I have to travel somewhere, and in the evening or sometime in the daytime, I'll have like a workshop or a webinar. So again, each day looks a little bit different. But if I don't have much meetings, I then work on my curriculum and do more research and more content, because I love to find out answers and then share them with people. So I know that if I have a question, somebody else probably has a question too. So I like to make the connections and get the research and like translate it, to what it really means, having both sides of like the pharmacy mind and the herbal holistic mind. And that's really the bridge that I like to be on. So those are the exciting things for me. And then in the evening, I really try not to have any meetings, so I could be there when my kids are home from school and we just have dinner together, and tucking them in at night, by 9 p.m. and then going to sleep myself by 10 p.m. Yeah, I think it's the number one solution for things like depression. I think getting outside of yourself, getting outside of the four walls and your habitat, like just a change of scene. You heard of cabin fever. So just getting outside, getting the sunlight, getting the sunshine on your face, that has a lot of physiological, but also um, more nuanced biochemical and spiritual benefits. So having that connection that you are part of something greater, being outside allows you to have that, and just removing yourself from your own, sometimes mental jail of like the same thoughts spinning over and over again, and maybe the same problems coming up over and over again. It gives you a chance to remove yourself from that and be part of something greater, because we all know deep down that we are part of something greater. So if somebody, I heard this recently, I think it's great. If somebody offered you $10 million, you would probably be really happy. But if somebody said, would you rather have $10 million, or would you rather wake up tomorrow, the next day, to have another day? What would you say? Right? So we have to value our life as if it's more than $10 million in order for us to wake up to have another day and to be able to be part of this majestic earth.
Can you tell us where we can find you? So if anybody wants to know more about you, get in touch with you.
Yeah, so absolutely. You can just search me up. Names. The website is marinabuksov.com, MarinaBuksov.com. You can check out my program, my graduate students, my services, what I'm offering now. I'm always offering free webinars and trainings in my Facebook community. So if you go on Facebook, you can look me up by my name also, and I'll invite you into the community. And really on any social media platform, just search me up by my name. I'm pretty much on all of them.
Okay, thank you very much. It was so great meeting with you and learning more about what you do. I think maybe we'll do something else more in the future. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and everyone, please make sure to like and subscribe as well. And I'll also leave our details in the description box. Do take care. Bye.